My name is Angela Hill, and I live on Skid Row. I'm currently in transitional housing, waiting on permanent housing, and I slept on the street approximately 3 years before I found semi-permanent housing. The winters were hard. Tents don't offer much protection from the wind and the cold, and they were hard, but the worst possible scenario was the rain. The rain was just totally, it was inconvenient, it was uncomfortable. You go to sleep dry and wake up wet. All your belongings would be totally soaked, and if you could afford to go to a laundromat, you would, hoping that it wouldn't rain the following night, then you'd have to do the whole thing all over again. I ended up throwing away a lot of my belongings because I didn't really have the money to wash on a daily basis. If it rained for any substantial amount, extended amount of time, I didn't have any money to wash my clothes every day, so I just ended up letting them stay wet, and they ended up mildewed. I had a lot of colds and ear infections. And then above and beyond the weather, it's hard trying to keep your belongings together. Because in the beginning when I came down here, you could keep your tent up on it all day, but since the Safe Street referendum, you have to take your tent down. You can't leave your stuff on the street, or they'll tag it. If you don't come back in a certain amount of time, they'll take it and throw it away. So it's really pretty hard. Actually, I was in my addiction then, so I didn't want to go in. And a lot of not wanting to go in was above and beyond drug use and alcohol was the way they treat you in some of the shelters. They're not very kind. There's a lot of arguing and fighting amongst the clients. To me, it was too rigid. The rules were too rigid. For me, for my lifestyle at that time, they were just too rigid. And a lot of times, honestly, even though people don't want to acknowledge this or admit it, there was no room. See, because in the summer, you can always get a bed because everybody can camp out and hang out. But when it gets cold, the beds fill up and they stay in them. So it's hard to get beds in the winter. Okay, one night I was walking to the store, and it was fairly early, about 8-ish. And this guy kept following me, and I was like, "What do you want?" And he was just like, "I like you." I was like, "I don't want to, leave me alone." So I went to the store, and I came back, and he followed me back to my tent. And thankfully, a friend was sitting in the doorway of my tent, waiting for me to come back from the store. But when that guy left, that other guy, the one that had been following me, he showed up, and he grabbed me, and he wouldn't let me go, and I was like, "Help, help," and everybody, and a lot of times people won't help you on the street. They don't want to get involved. They thought it was maybe a boyfriend, girlfriend kind of, you know what I'm saying, something. And I was like, he had me pinned against the fence, and I got away from him. I ran into this other girl's tent, and he was so bold, he came in the tent after me. He didn't even know these people. And then they said, well, just stay in here, and he just kept hanging around. He was just not leaving. He was not leaving. So finally, we called the police. And the police came, and they ran his name, and they said, "You know what, we're going to thank you because he's a serial sex offender. He just got released about 2 weeks ago. He raped a girl in Long Beach, and we've been looking for him all this time." So that just shows you how dangerous it is on the street, especially for women, because you don't know who. I've seen people. I saw a man. I walked past a man and a woman, and they were having, I thought, a little tiff. And I heard gunshots, and I turned around, and he shot her in the head and killed her. So it's people don't want to admit it, but it's dangerous out there. And one other incident I can remember, I broke up with my boyfriend who was abusive, and I met this guy, and we got a motel room together, and we were going to split the rent. Then he started trying to move into this pimp kind of scenario, well, you give me all the money, and I'll get you high, whatever, some crap. Anyway, I left, and I saw him on the street, and he kind of chased me, and he roughed me up a little bit. Well, the next day, I saw him on St. Julian, and he says, "You owe me money," which was not true, I promise. And he was just trying to intimidate, and he ran over to me and hit me so hard he knocked me out cold. And then he tried to pretend like, he stood over me and said, "Well, what happened to her?" And everybody's like, "You did it, you did it." So I went to the police station, and my eye was swollen, my face was full of blood. And anyway, they caught him, and he's now doing prison time. But then again, too, the flip side of the coin is I worry about when he gets out. Is he going to retaliate, or I'm not in touch with the district attorney. I don't know when he's going to be released, and so it's real dangerous out there. God has been good to me, and I'm just grateful that I'm still alive, because it's nothing nice. It's nothing nice.